Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Dave and by Sam for another discussion. And this is the final discussion, spoiler discussion, I should say, on Andor of Season 1, Episode 12, RIX Road, which I keep thinking of Yellow Brick Road, but it's not. It's a very different thing to that indeed. This is not the Elton John Star Wars crossover some thought it could be. But that being said, we're going to hear and go through all of the series for you tonight. We will have Phill popping up at some point as well, so please do not worry about that. He will be popping up, and Tate is unfortunately able to make it tonight, so we almost had the full team that's been doing these videos across the last few weeks. But before we get into that sort of stuff, how are we both doing tonight?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much. I've only literally just kind of finished the episode, literally about 20 minutes before we started, so it's in there and fresh. But yeah, looking forward to talking the finale of Andor.
Very much the same. Feeling fabulous. Watched it at lunchtime, so it has been stewing the rest of the day. Excited to hear thoughts, opinions. Although based on reactions that I've seen, most people are generally quite happy. So that's a win for everyone, I think.
No, 100%. And this was quite an episode. And I had today off work, so I got to watch. I say early. I set an alarm, personal stuff aside. I set an alarm for 7 a.m. because I had an IKEA's every coming. And then it said it will be here between 9 and 1. I was like, all right, I'm off to bed. And I made the fatal mistake of going on Twitter before I watched the episodes. And I was scrolling down just on a natural morning instinct. And so I was like, Andor spoiler, fuzzy image. I was like, no, okay, right, episode on, let's go. And that was there this morning. So it didn't get spoiled for me, but it was lovely to see at home properly rather than on my lunch break on a computer, because I've had to do that for a few, which is when the episodes have been great. But before we get into the episode, I want to hear from everybody in the comments. We've got a few of you there. And if you are new to the channel, please do hit that comment button. If you are live, we will bring them up. We'll talk about them. We've got Martin. It's good evening. He's in the chat. We've got Zambon's Film Imperial. What a finale. Cliffhanger credit scene. We'll be talking about all of that. And it looks like Phill is on the way in. He's asking for the link to the stream. So
Can't have
I will send that in a couple of minutes.
No.
Give me a few moments, Phill. But please do comment your thoughts, and we'll bring them up. We'll go through the episode. And if you're not watching it live, you're watching it on demand. We've got a whole playlist now, all 12 episodes that you can have a look at. 10 episodes covering 12 episodes of the series. And if you're new to the channel, you want to find out about any of the videos we've got happening, any of the videos there are planning, you're best off following us on social media now. Twitter is still here, contrary to popular belief. So you can find us on Twitter at cinema_savvy. You can find us on Instagram at cinema_savvy. You can't find us on Hive. A lot of people are joining it. I've created my own account, and I'm not doing anything with it yet. But the account exists, but there won't be a Cinema Savvy one because there's far too many social media links for me to remember, for me to put on these videos and hype up. And you've also got Facebook and letterboxd.com/Cinema Savvy, followed by Redbubble. You can get a link in our description. And that's me done advertising things. Dave, I'm going to hand over to you. You did an excellent job at hosting last week.
I thought so,
definitely. But I really want to quickly just grab your thoughts on how last week ended and coming into today. Like, were you hyped finishing work, coming to watch it, or talk us through while I send Phill the link for obvious reasons?
Yeah, cool, excellent. It's actually, coming off the last episode, which we discussed, it was kind of a very different feel from what we'd had previously with the prison episodes. So we're coming to this. I was very hyped. I was at work, so I didn't literally get to look at my phone or Twitter all day. So I hadn't had anything sort of spoiled. I hadn't seen anything of what was coming. So yeah, it was nice to kind of sit down tonight, literally before we started, and watch the finale. And yeah, I am positive about it. I did enjoy it. I don't know if I thought it was quite hit the heights that I would have liked it to. For myself, it was a bit of everyone got off a bit scot-free for my liking. But there's things that happen. We'll talk about those and what didn't happen and what could have maybe happened. But yeah, so I enjoyed it overall. And yeah, it's just been a very different feel for these last two episodes than we had in the build-up. So it's just been, yeah, that kind of how they're going to do it, what they're going to finish with. And while satisfying and ready for season 2, I had some other hopes for it.
And before we get to Sam, we have Phill. Phill, how are you doing tonight? Phill, you're on mute. So I'm so sorry. No,
you're on. Oh, look at this rookie mistake.
There we
Come
go.
back, come on.
I'm jumping between things. I'm back. I'm here. Yes. No. I finished up early, just about, so I could jump in a little earlier. And I don't know what you were watching, Dave, but this is probably one of the best things I've ever seen when it comes to Star Wars. I'm so hyped to talk about this. So hyped. But I think it's for probably different reasons. A lot of it being Empire related.
We'll get to your prediction about what the machine was being built because I've been waiting for that. But Sam, quickly to you, how was last week? How are you hyped for this week?
I mean, last week was amazing because George, you weren't here. So that's
I sat there waiting like a teacher for as soon as the episode finished. Like, oi, what have you done?
So that's number one. But no, number two, I think I think everyone enjoyed last week's episode immensely. I think we had a lot of not expectations, but a lot of different predictions about what could happen, and I think we talked a lot about that. And I think mostly this episode's done a really good job. Similar to Dave, I have a couple of quibbles about it, but nothing major. But I think on the whole, it's been a great episode, a great series, and looking forward to diving in.
Phill, you weren't here with me last week. We both
No.
went on. Very quickly, thoughts on episode 11?
Well, I tried to put in as many of my thoughts into the chat as possible as the guys were going through it, especially with the aliens that sounded like me when I'm drunk, especially the farmer coming out there. The West Country Space Aliens was quite good. No, I thought it was a fantastic episode on the whole, and I loved how it neatly tied up the whole prison arc, but set up Ferrix. It kind of brought everything back to where you kind of knew it was going to go, but in a way that was... It's the whole thing with Tony Gilroy from the start. He's very, very good at writing. He's very good at what the overall story arc, the very overall kind of the impact each episode and each arc has had going forward. So it's set up, I thought, was very nicely for this episode. A lot of, compared to what we've had in previous things with like Mando or whatever, where it happens to be, here's your one episode, one and done with some setup. That first episode was a very, not a slow burner, that would be the wrong word to say, like wrong phrasing there, because it was good, it had action, it had points here and there. But I thought it was very good setting up for what we had this week, and I was not disappointed last week's episode.
No, definitely. We've also got Sarah in the chat as well. Lovely to see you. I don't know, anyone watching at home, this is a spoiler discussion. We are talking all things episode 12. Final cut-off. If you're still here, you've not seen the episodes, time to turn off this video because we're going to get into it. And as Dave said, there's a fair few things. And what we're going to do, we're going to kickstart talking Ferrix. Then we're going to talk about Mon Mothma. Then we're going to talk about the final scene and then the credit scene, and then start looking ahead to season 2 because season 2 began filming this week. So we'll end on that. And I'm wearing my dressing gown, so it's very cold, and I don't care.
Yeah, but it is themey, so at some point.
Yeah, it works. The Rocky one wouldn't have worked for today. However, get themselves a nice ISB one. Not that I'm promoting fascism, but I bet that would be comfy. Right. Coming in from last week, I mean, it begins with a bomb being built, which we've never seen in Star Wars, which completely blew my mind. I think only because I saw Munich for the first time this year, I've never really been watching videos of bombs being built. It's not something I do in my spare time, just in case the FBI are watching. But there's a lot of things about this, and this reflects the whole series as a whole. We're seeing so many new things in Star Wars, and these are all very real-life things, like Earth things. And I think Star Wars Theory, if anyone's familiar with that clown, he was criticizing the show because they had bricks in it because it's not Star Wars enough. And I was like,
oh wow,
bricks, like bricks. You're talking about things being inaccurate in Star Wars, and your criticism is there are bricks in the series. That says a lot you need to know about people's theories. But
as we all know, the Theed Palace was made out of hopes and dreams, and
it's a mud hut at what it is. It's
a very high class mud hut.
How dare it be real? Look at how they filmed episode 4 on Tunisia. That wasn't real. They actually went to Tatooine. But yeah, sorry. I see things like that, and I'm just sat here saying, how do people talk on the internet? Like, I can be pretty terrible in my opinions sometimes, but how can I be that thick and have a channel called? Yeah, okay, Savvy's meant to assume some kind of intelligence. I didn't come up with the channel name, but I don't want to humiliate myself talking embarrassment about that. I don't even know what my name pitch was for this original channel. That's how long ago it was. But old guys, I've been here 7 years now. I don't remember what the name was before Cinema Savvy. But I definitely shut down a few of the terrible options that were put forward. And I zoned all the logos. But I'm going to be really embarrassing. I watched this episode over 12 hours ago now. Aside from the bomb being built, I can't really remember the opening. Has anyone got a better memory than me? I should have rewatched it, but I was out for a meal, so I couldn't. Dave,
It's the landing of the landing of the Imperial shuttle, the first sight of
Death Troopers.
Yep.
Death Troopers. So
There we go.
with Dedra coming off that ship. So yeah, and obviously it's Brasso finding out Cassian's back. So you get kind of a very quick look into what's going on with your kind of main characters throughout this, as everyone journeys to Ferrix, swapping hats in trains.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw the slight cape and my brain did immediately go to credit watch. Like, really? Could they? No, they didn't.
I saw those Death Troopers. It's not the first time
Yep.
Cassian's yeeted a couple of them. He did that in Rogue One as well, of course.
This is true.
I let that one slide, but as far as today, because again, I didn't really give my thoughts on last week, and like every episode, I've enjoyed. There's not an episode I've disliked to the series. I think this is probably. It's not hard to say this is the best Star Wars series. There's literally only been 5 of them, including both seasons of The Mandalorian. I think the real question is this on par with the best Star Wars films? And to me, I'll give you an answer once season 2 is done and dusted, because after Game of Thrones, I can never, ever trust a TV show till it's finished in its entirety. And I'm sorry to be the guy that brings that up, but to me, that's my standard of TV, that I just have to maintain expectations till it's done and dusted. But heading into a season finale, to me, there was a lot of... From last week, I love the fact they're all building toward this funeral. That Marva's death caught me off guard because it was off screen. Something Star Wars doesn't do often. And I think it was a very smart way of doing it, because we did get to see her today, which makes it, I think, more impactful that we didn't see her die, because we got this incredible hologram sequence. But getting the build-up of everyone coming together, it felt like a finale in a really good way, that, oh my, we've got the people, obviously, from the first arc, which was on Ferrix, who were all set up. We've got Cassian post-prison break, where he's, in theory, a rebel now. We've got Luthen coming in for the kill. We've got the ISB who's been chasing us as Aldani. We've got the other Aldani people going to kill him. Everything came together. And before I actually start talking about the episode, I just want to once again credit Tony Gilroy for this series, because I genuinely believe that not this is his brainchild, because I know a lot of the other writers were very involved. Bo Williamson, is it Dan Gilroy? I forgot there's so many Gilroys, and a few others. But where we were today, something as calm as a funeral to have an entire episode based around is not something I ever thought we'd get in Star Wars. And it's just that praise to them that we did so. And I think, just as a quick one, the episode was on par with the rest of the series for me. Was still very different in terms of it being a finale. But the setting up to the events was exceptional. Dave, just quickly before I guess we're talking like pre the funeral. How did you find it up to that point?
I enjoyed the most of it. Before the funeral, I did love Cassian coming back and going to see Clem's brick in the wall. I thought it was a really beautiful moment where he flashed back for that little moment. That was probably my favorite bit of the lead up. The whole of them kind of getting everyone to where it needed to be. I enjoyed, don't get us wrong, I enjoyed this episode. I just don't, if it didn't quite stick the landing. And that's maybe because of maybe I expected something different for a lot of the characters. I didn't expect as many characters that got to fly off in this to actually make it through. And it's it made it a bit like, oh, okay, this didn't kind of... Last week we kind of touched on that maybe Ferrix wouldn't be there by the end of this episode, that we would maybe... Cassian would lose the last thing he has, this place of his mother. I mean, we'll get into Marva's speech a little bit later, which was just incredible. But yeah, I really enjoyed this actual, just finding out where everyone was coming from, how everyone was getting to, and how Mon Mothma's husband's been putting some bets on the ponies. He hasn't, it's just lying. It's just to cover up the money.
Sam?
Oh, I was probably my favorite bit pre-funeral was that Mon Mothma scene, like a surprise. But I think it's because at first I was like, "What are you talking about? What's going on?" And then as soon as I clicked, I was like, I did my whole Jurassic Park clever girl, because I was like, that was to me, it was just so like, yes, I completely understand. And then it was good to kind of see what happened afterwards, where the driver does, inform the ISB and actually get that full clarity that he is, getting that information over, and that what could it mean, and that one of the options is, what Mon Mothma is trying to do is trying to kind of make them understand that the money being transferred is down to that, and not because of anything shady, whatsoever. So for me, that was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to go away from the Mon Mothma scene for a moment and talk about Nimic's manifesto, which, of course, Cassian was listening to. And it's something that I wasn't expecting. I love the build-up with the bomb making. I love the scene Mon Mothma. And again, I didn't actually really twig what it was about until we've started talking about it, because I only watched it once. It's been kind of a very hurried day. So on a second view round, I probably would have picked it up more. But I love the interaction. I love the fact that we also had a wedding as well. Well, the arranged wedding that we didn't see fully, but we had that set up, and it's very much Mon Mothma signing off on selling her soul by blaming the money on her husband, because she knows the ISB are listening to it, so she can at least blame it away somehow. Her daughter's being married off, so she can at least sort the money part out. But Nimic's manifesto wasn't something I was expecting. I wasn't expecting Cassian to hold on to it in terms of the... By the time we see him in Rogue One, he's a very committed rebel. He's very committed to the cause, to the point that he's going to kill Galen Erso only after he meets Jyn, only after he has spent time with her, does he not pull the trigger, which he, of course, says later on. He goes, I had the opportunity, but I didn't do it. I ignored my orders. But he was going to follow through with them. He's very committed. And I think this sows the seeds better now than we had before. Obviously, I'm going to jump ahead a bit, talk about the ending with Luther, when he then has where he then basically turns around to Luther and gives him the ultimatum at that point. But this sows those seeds. And out of everything we had pre-funeral, I thought this was my favorite part, because it was my least expected moment. I expected everything to happen in the ISP. I expected Mon Mothma to be involved with the arranged marriage. I didn't expect Cassian to listen to the manifesto. And I think out of everything, that's probably my favorite moment of the entire episode, because I wasn't expecting it. That and what's to come right at the very end. But we'll cover that part much later.
Yeah, and as well with the manifesto, I'm pretty sure they play it again at the end of the episodes. It's one of the... I might be wrong. I think it's one of the last bits of dialogue we actually hear as well. Is also him playing the manifesto again, which I think is pretty amazing. I mean, you wouldn't think, there's particular Star Wars, you never assumed you'd ever get. There's someone listening to a manifesto about rebellions in a season finale, but here we are, and it's bloody excellent. We've got quickly Martin in the comments. 12 episodes in, and no Krennic. I thought tonight was the night. Sorry, George. Let's not rule it out yet. We were by his place of work at the end, so he might have technically been in the shot, just not visible in the shot.
And we had Death Troopers, so,
Yeah, we had his accomplices, which, listen, and this is me going to the whole, British filmmaking again. The Death Troopers, I don't seem British in the sense that our country's got an abysmal history of stuff like that, but because we know Rogue One was shot here, there's something about, oh, look, it's the British live-action Star Wars show, and they've brought the Death Troopers in. I know that's a very weird thing to say, because they could do it on the American ones. But there's just something about that where it felt right. And even we're going to talk the funeral. I mean, if we move into the funeral segment, which, I guess we can now say marching bands are confirmed within Star Wars universe. That's right. They don't take offense at marching bands, but they do at bricks as materials in buildings. I loved this. And we know how important sound is to tension. We learned that from episode 3, right? And we brought back our beloved. Has he ever got a name yet? The drum man who sits.
Oh, the guy, the anvil. I don't think so.
Is it Beskar plating? That's what I keep thinking. It's like Beskar material he's smacking.
No, they wouldn't waste Beskar on anvil. That's something more resonating.
Yeah. But you never know, because he had a pretty good kick on him when we got to it. But it's one of them where this whole sequence. I know I'm jumping ahead. We've got some really great build up. We had tension. And this is, again, what this show does on. We have tension every week, every couple of minutes. And it's when they're like, we know Andor's going to be in that building. And everyone's like, shit, it's going to kick off now. It's going to happen. You've got Dedra Miro with the Death Troopers. Cyril watching from the steps. Sounds like a great name for an absolute legend. I kind of wish I went to Comic-Con the weekend, because I know he was there. And apparently he was lovely with everyone.
Oh.
And I will have an Andor poster ready for celebration. I promise you all. But the building up to the funeral, it's not blowing my mind because Andor to me is transcended past Star Wars in a really like weird dynamic. Like it is so Star Wars, whilst being so fresh to it. I'm kind of putting it in the Last Jedi place. Like this is them doing so different to anything we've had before.
We've got Canto Bight mentioned, so you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that took me
True.
out. I was like, oh great, it's like gambling. She goes, do it in Canto Bight. I was like, oh, what's that? A reference? Tony Gilroy doesn't know what Canto Bight is. When he found out, they say he killed someone. I'm joking. Did you see his interview about the about all the references in the shop? He said like he didn't think any of them in the shop were like Star Wars things. So he says he only found out when the article started going on, people saying, "Look, what was in the background of these Andor episodes."
There's a good production department gone, look, you don't know, we will have our fun. Here's all the Easter eggs in the world. Have people have fun with this.
Like
That
season
is
2 onwards.
production department having their fun. That's what that is.
And there's nothing wrong with it because it didn't impact the story. It never took us out. And even Canto Bight's name drop, it's a name drop. It's not a go to Canto Bight. We go to Canto Bight for 20 minutes. Like none of that. And I think that's a big thing for me with Star Wars. But how do we all feel about the concept of a funeral? Because I know it's something we've not really had in Star Wars, but I loved that it was all engineered almost with the Empire. Like, yeah, we want them to have it so we can stamp our authority. And obviously the citizens knowing, yeah, we want this funeral to happen because we're going to use this to attack. It was this incredible sort of 4D dimensional chess game. And I just sat there on the edge of my seat the entire time thinking, when's the little kid going to launch that grenade? When's he going to do it? And then obviously the brick goes up. I was like, is the bomb in the brick? And, I just didn't know what to expect. And it was just so amazing. It's kind of reminded me of the Eye that because it's TV, we can spend time within other cultures that we've not been able to in Star Wars. And seeing a funeral procession for these locals as a daughter of Ferrix, I thought it was a really interesting setup. But how do you all feel with that? Because I know I've been waffling for ages.
It's fine. You waffle well. I really love it. It had that when it first started. I love that they started earlier than the Empire had told them. That they already knew they were going to start just getting them out of place a bit. It was almost like the word of Cassian being back and also kind of Phill, because they knew that was then going to empty the hotel they were in, which meant Bix could be rescued from a little broken state that she's still in. Like, that line was the one that got when Bix looked and said, "You make them angry." When Cassian was trying to save her, I was like, "Oh my god, they have really, really done a job on you." But yeah, I thought the procession to the funeral, it had that whole New Orleans sort of funeral feel to it. That the band in the front and just, I thought it had a really nice vibe to it. But I love they were coming from all sides to meet up to the middle of this main square. I thought the whole thing was done so well. And can I just say the production value that you see on screen when you see the wide shot of Ferrix behind them, it was incredible how amazing it looked. I thought it was a really nice setup. I love the introduction of the brick, the way they were doing it, and the way it was brought out. I thought it was I thought the funeral was really well done, and right through to Marva's speech, which we'll get on to, because I thought it was just that cry to everyone to fight the Empire, fighting these bastards. Without using bad language, me. But
You're quoting. It's
no, I thought the
timing was right. It was in quotation. It was good.
So yeah, quotation. But yeah, no, I thought the build was lovely. I thought the whole set was great. All the people at Ferrix coming together, costume design, everything looked incredible.
Quickly before we get to Sam, I'm going to bring him in for this because this tees up what we know you're about as well. Martin, the funeral procession reminded me of Live and Let Die. Zambon, it's a jazz funeral, a bit like Live and Let Die. Sam, were you thinking Live and Let Die as well?
I mean, I wasn't when I was watching it, but then as soon as Dave started saying that, I was like, well, actually, it does remind me of Live and Let Die a little bit. Except for the big song and dance at the end turned into a battle. No, I love that it's like that, and I love the use of music and actual diegetic music in something like that, because I just think it adds to the tension, it adds to this feeling of kind of this somber tone. Which then changes when the music changes, and I think your mood shifts when that shifts, and I think it's such a clever way of doing it, which they very, very easily could have just left out. And in terms of just kind of like using a funeral in Star Wars, I think it's an interesting thing because we've seen different types of funeral or kind of tributes to people, whether it's just been burning a body like with someone on their own, or the thing closest to this would have been Padme's funeral, I guess, and with such a large procession of people, and I guess this is kind of the complete opposite of that in a sense, because that's at night, it's the beginning of the Empire. Essentially, it's kind of like a goodbye to what has come before, whereas this is kind of, Aldani's one kind of mark of the rebellion, but this is another mark of the rebellion of people coming together to fight back, and to do that through a funeral is just so clever. And I love that the ISB think that they've got them, that they've got their plan, and they're going to get these people and just put them in line. They underestimate what people can do, especially when they work together, which is just one of the most simple kind of ideals that is used in storytelling, is the good versus evil, people banding together to defeat evil. But it works, and that's what is what Star Wars is based off, is what Star Wars is to me. So to kind of see that in this different way, I just thought it was quite remarkable, and I wouldn't have thought of it, but to use Marva and to know how she was feeling prior to her death, what she was wanting. You could tell she had this fire in her, and that's kind of instilled in everyone who's there. And to kind of know that they're building up to this and doing it not just for her, but for all of the people around them, their family. I just thought it was really special.
So I'm going to rewind a little bit because I feel we've missed out a couple of key important details leading up to the funeral. The funeral I'll get to in a bit. First off, I want to talk about the fact that when Cassian, before Cassian arrives, he has his co-workers talking about him, saying, if only Cassian knew, I don't think he'd come back. And it's like, well, don't be so sure. I say, well, what are you telling me that I don't know? But he obviously then goes off and betrays Cassian because he says, I want double the rate and I want to ride out of here when it's done. He goes to the ISB to sell Cassian out because he wants out of there because he could see what's happening with the Empire. You also have Dejamiro, of course, who arrives. As soon as she gets there, immediately checks off and Bix and then goes, right, out into the streets. I want to change. I don't want a bodyguard. I have one person with me. Into cities. I want to see what the city's like. I need to get under its skin. Her relentless pursuit is just incredible. And it is very much you can see she lives and dies by what she does. And what you have before that is what happens with Krieger. So after the whole incident with Mon Mothma, of course, the driver ends up talking in the office because Krieger, you're missing all this. It's fun. Gets in there. Of course, you find out that, yes, the sacrifices happened. Again, off screen. We didn't need to see it. We didn't meet Krieger. We didn't see the attack. We didn't see it in the plannings. We just know it happened and it was gone. We knew the men got slaughtered. So we know the ruthlessness of Saw and Luthen's already kind of taken place. And of course, you have Mira going, you weren't supposed to do this. Bodies don't talk. And she is just relentless in her pursuit of information. So her whole thing is then, I want Andor alive. Because they're going, sniper rifles. No, I want Andor alive. How many times do I have to tell you? Don't make me repeat this. Send it down the line. I want him alive. And she is just perfect in this. You then have my least favorite character of all, Cyril, turning up because Stalker is crazy Stalker with his old sergeant. But again, he's integral to the story and what happens later on. But you have all this build up before you get to the funeral. I just didn't want to gloss over actually a lot of my favorite parts of the episode, which is all the building up. I've loved the ISB and the Empire throughout this. Not because I idolize fascism in any way, shape, or form, but the Empire was supposed to be scary. We've always heard about it being scary, but through the original trilogy and throughout Rebels and things, you can only tell so much of a story through PG. Now, this would be rated at 12. There's nothing like over the top about it. Nothing scary in terms of no blood or gore, no monsters or something like. It's not traditional, but what it is psychological, and it is written so well, and Miro is played so well that you end up fearing the Empire. And then you have the funeral itself, and the funeral puts the fear back into the Empire. So the Empire then has to respond and respond in kind. The Empire wants to put its boot down and quash everything in its path. The fact that people are ignoring them isn't making them happy, which is why then Bix says, did you make them angry? Because damn right they did. And it builds up and goes and goes and goes. And then, yes, the funeral itself. B2 Emo being the heartbreaking little droid that he is, just trundling along, is just... It, like that pulls at the heartstrings. He really is the heart and soul of this whole operation, despite being a droid. But you have Cassian's friends, family, and people he knows, and a planet that's not around him. For a show that's called Andor, this finale wasn't about Cassian. It was about Marva. And it was about B2, and it was about everybody around Cassian. Cassian was the catalyst for coming back, but it wasn't about him. It was about the story surrounding him, both from the Empire's point of view and from the public's point of view. And then the funeral itself, yeah, and I have to agree, it has that live and let die vibes, but also it has names go off the top of my head, but it's one with that kind of Day of the Dead look to it. Spectre, that's it. It has that kind of similar street.
Didn't have a horrible yellow filter though.
No, it has that similar feel and vibe to it. And then this is where I'm going to be interested. I want to know your thoughts on this, guys, because for me, the most harrowing and most real part of the episode was, although the speech itself was hit like a freight train, and I know we'll all give our piece on that, it was then the Empire's retaliation. It was then the open fire at will command that it shivers down my spine. It was just this is how the Empire's going to be. This is the Empire that you fear. This is the Empire that people talk about. This is what people rebel against. This is the reason why, because you have a funeral, someone says some words, crowd gets rowdy. Do they arrest people? No, they put the shields up and then goes, you know what, sod it, open fire, just kill them all. It is terrifying.
I get a lot of it, although they are still there for Andor though. Like they're not at the funeral for Marva. Like they all know. Everyone on RIX knows this is Andor's funeral. Andor's coming back for his mom's funeral. The Empire are here to begin with because of Cassian. They're going to get worse because they're trying to draw Cassian out. So I'd say he's definitely the most important part of this still. But he is very much also bringing in. It's more he brings in the other characters from the other arcs whilst Andy Serkis is still swimming to get to his way off the prison because we'll maintain hope.
He's just bobbing about.
Whatever his fate was, it was a pretty bad fate. But hopefully, it'll be like Gendry in Game of Thrones. We just don't see him for 2 years. He pops up around his boat. But no, I mean, let's talk some of the funeral stuff. That Marvel speech is worth its own segment, but I think we kind of knew we were going to get something, right? We'd seen the bomb being built. We were seeing the brick, and we thought there's something else is going to happen. Again, thanks to Twitter at 9 a.m, I knew that Marvel had a speech. I didn't see anything else. I was like, that's enough for me. And the main thing is, and I know Tony Gilroy wouldn't have done this, but some directors, franchises would have. I'm glad that Marva didn't fake her death and that she didn't just pop up, be like, let's go. I love the fact it was this pre-recorded hologram. And also the way they shot the hologram as well, a really, really minor point. The hologram tech has got much better. I'm assuming it's the actress in the green screen room, but there's something about it feels much better on screen now than it has in other Star Wars things over the last few years. I think, again, it looked more real, and you know that Tony Gilroy wants the more real things rather than having the jilted lines through a blue hologram. Even as what you said, Phill, when we get the Dedra chatting with Kyburn, there's no holograms. It's just them on Star Wars Skype. Like, yay, what's up? And we haven't really had that before. And we got a little bit of an episode, Empire Strikes Back, but it's really interesting seeing how they're using different techniques for this that I think appeals to the writing and how this has been done more. But the actual speech itself is... I'm bored of saying this show is great because it's superb, but it's like another unbelievable monologue that this show has done. Like, I know that the Star Wars account this morning was live tweeting Luthen's speech from episode 10 about everything that happened. Or was it episode 11? No, it was episode 10. And I'm just sat there saying, like, the writing is just at this point now where they're so consistent with it. I'm not being blown away because it's stayed at this unreal consistency that I don't want to be used to, but I am now used to. I wouldn't say it's an expectation, though. That's when people will start to get funny. As in, I don't want the Mandalorian to have an incredible monologue about rebellions. That would be way out of touch. That's what I mean by that. But everything with Marva, a character I didn't think had not done much, but looking at the series as a whole, Her character arc, I think, is better than it was a week ago, and I think we needed today's episodes to certify her position in the show. But just the tension, the build, because we know there's going to be a fight. We know that bomb is going to get thrown. We know that people are going to die. But it was the way in which all the circumstances came out one by one. I just thought was unbelievable, and it's a credit again to the direction, to the writing skills, and Dave, you mentioned the production design. This was on a set. This was a town they built, near Pinewood last year. They built the whole city. What a great way to spend that money, rather than having. And I'm not here to make digs at the Mando tech, because I'm bored of the whole ILM. Sorry, have I forgot the name of the tech? Stagecraft.
The volume.
The volume. That's it. The volume. People are just picking and choosing, which is unfair. Like, they're both great technologies, and they're both. I mean, they have now announced, which I knew anyway, that the volume was used for parts of the Mandalorian. Not the Mandalorian, sorry, for Andor. Then I saw the article. Tony Gilroy admitted it. It was mainly done for Coruscant. So whenever there's a building, they had built a volume set going around so they could do the Coruscant skyline. It's more of an nautical projection, but at least people are being quiet about that now. But how do we all feel about the speech and then the following attack? I mean, just the way the bomb went off as well. It wasn't just like big bang, let's fight. It was this build-up of more things going off, and it had earned its place so well. And seeing so many people as well getting the wipeout effect from that, the glass shattering up the side of the buildings, it's just something we've not seen much of in Star Wars.
The whole Marva speech, I did just. You're right, the acting level in this show has been way above what was maybe expected, and it is a new level for certainly a Star Wars show, as far as I'm concerned. And to be honest, some few Star Wars movies that don't reach the heights of this either. And it's going to be a thing into itself. I think Andor season 2 will carry on this legacy. I really hope season 2 is what we expect it to be. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that to carry on into other shows, and they've all got their own styles, just like they have with from the prequels to the sequels to Rebels to Clone Wars. Everything's got its own style, its own look, the own way it does its Star Wars. So you can't go, yeah, this is a different thing, but you get the best of everything in this. And Marvel's speech is just so phenomenal. It started out like a speech of her just talking about being a daughter of Ferrix and how she went to see her first funeral, and she saw the funeral stone. I can't remember what she called it now. A funerary stone, they called it, sorry. And I just thought it was so nice for her to just say, but while you're asleep, that's when they're coming. They're not just here for a visit anymore. They're here to stay. And it's just when that line was like, the Empire is a disease. But it was like, oh, here we go. Shit just got real. And from that moment, so can we edit that out? That was awful. So yeah, from that moment, it was just like she's on the attack. You could then see the Empire just sort of like, oh, hang on, now we can feel it a bit more. The tension just went from like 0 to like 100 in just this few words say that fight the Empire. Her finishing with that, and then everything just brought loose, throwing the bomb, landing other bombs that landed in other bombs. Just what a way to start this whole battle going on, where the Empire realize that they can't take control like they want to, that they are significantly outnumbered until like Phill says, the guy gives the order, just open fire, just you've got free reign. Anything that moves is a worthy target, just go for it. And everyone gets out scot-free.
I'm with you. Sam?
Well, yeah, I mean, to echo the Marva speech hype, I mean, it was a great speech, and I love that she was given the time, that it was good, that the speech itself was given the time, and that it does have those different levels of, talking how a person may talk about themselves, about their life, but just the meaning behind the words. And I think that's what, George, you've said about how impressive the writing is. That's what I get from this. A lot of what is being said has meaning. There's so many shows and movies nowadays where everything's said to just try and get some form of like either joke out or to try and get a laugh, and which is great. But when it happens all the time, it means that other things can be lost in translation. Whereas I think here, with the writing of the show, I feel like the words have just been crafted to really make us believe in them as well. And so when you're hearing Marva's speech and then looking, and I said before we went on, and I don't know what the actor's called, but the guy who plays Willman, who's the son of the guy, I think he's actually called Salmon, the guy who was tortured before Bix, the one who died. I have to commend him because his face like was doing so much that made me feel frustration and anger, made me kind of understand why he was doing what he was doing. Like, unlike, someone like Andor, who, Cassian, who lost his father, but then still had Marva, he apparently has no one or no other parental figure there. So he's going about things how he believes it should happen. And, maybe not the best thing for him to throw that bomb, but something was going to happen anyway. And I understood this frustration against the Empire, the ISB, with all the stuff, especially with what's happening in the world still. There's times where you feel like you want to fight back, but you can't, and you wouldn't in that kind of way anyway. But I love that he was kind of a focal point for this, and he was the catalyst, and that, when you affect the younger generation, they can sometimes be the ones who, turn things or do something that then either incites a conversation or incites more than that, which we see here. But then just kind of the initial beginning of this attack was also just something that I thought kind of blew my mind. I would have actually loved to see this in the cinema, because I think that explosion I kind of felt a little bit, and I would have thought that to see that in a cinema, to feel that, you'd see those windows smashed. You don't get so many of those in kind of like those feelings, but and obviously the impact, it was so large that many people were killed on that instant, that first attack. But yeah, going into them opening fire on everyone, that's when right, these cold-hearted, they weren't expecting this, and they're just going to go for this because they can't think about it, they can't do anything else, they're not going to even try and talk. They are going to use weapons instead of words.
Yeah, I mean, Marva's speech is... I welled up. I'm not going to lie. I properly welled up, because a well-written speech should move you. No matter if it's reality or if it's fiction, a well-written speech is supposed to move the soul and make the mind think. It's not supposed to be something that you just listen to. If you don't connect with it, then you're not going to get it. This is one of those speeches that is incredibly well-written and takes you on a journey from, as you said, it's very much her own eulogy and her own send-off, and ends up with the rebellion, and ends up with right, I have now waffled on enough that the Empire is kind of going and relaxing, maybe. I'm now going to incite violence. But you can't start a speech off by going, right, you're going to fight back, you're going to do it now. You need to build into it. So a good speech is supposed to move you, and supposed to leave you thinking. It's supposed to be something that transcends just words and actually ends up in emotions. This is one of those speech where give the damn woman an Emmy, because it is just so well put forward. And it's not like she has a lack of emotion. She has a lot of emotion within what she says and how she says it, without it being over the top. It's very directed to the point. She says her piece on her own life, and then it's the whole, I wish I'd woken up sooner. If I was to do it all again, I'd wake up sooner. At that point, it's then the cloak being thrown over, going, enough of this. It doesn't quite cover it, and still goes on, and then it's like, right, I want you to fight these bastards, and then it's just, then it hits. But you have to be able to have this speech take a journey. And of course, throughout that speech, you see Cassian wander around. You see him clocking Luthen. You see him clocking the Empire and the ISB. You see him clocking where Bix is. You see what's going on. You see the fact he has been clocked as well, and he moves and gets out the way. So you have all these moving pieces around the speech. The fact the funeral is the center point, but not the entire focus of the episode, is incredible, because it's set up, it's payoff, but you also have the stories around it. So that speech is done incredibly well. And then, as I said, you then get into the fire at will. And it's the fact that when the grenade is lobbed, and it not only sets off its own grenade, but opens up, and you see the Death Trooper grenades, which of course we then is another callback to Rogue One with Baze. But this is then, of course, sets off. More goes off. It kills the guy who had ratted out Cassian. It kills a lot of people that were integral to the story. And then, as it's open fire at will, a lot of the key pieces of Cassian's loved ones, family members, co-workers, whatever you want to call them, get picked off one by one. Each one of them has helped Cassian in his own way, and you don't really get anyone left, and it is just brutal.
Most of them are alive. They're all in the ship.
A few of them are, but a lot of
they're like the named ones.
Not all of them, but I did like the fact that the guy used the Phoenix Stone as a battering ram to knock someone's skull in.
Yes,
that was like, that's what Marva would have wanted. That's one of those things. This is exactly what she would have wanted. I'm fighting back even beyond my grave. Have it. And it was fantastically done. And of course, then you get into the stampede and actually get into the crash. And I was disappointed that Mirren got saved by Cyril. And I'm going to
see.
I hate Cyril with a passion. I think he's the worst character in the entire season.
I almost cut Nigel Farage then and said he used to laugh at me because he didn't defect. This guy was stone cold psycho from episode 1 through to the end, and we are going to see him in that fine white ISB suit next year. I don't mean fine by fascism.
He's gone from something I thought might defect into a creepy stalker.
He was never defecting. He was never defecting. He was always an insane fascist worker that.
I thought he was going to try and kiss Mirror, though. I thought, like, please.
This was the scene. I think I want to know anyone that watched that for the first time and didn't think there was just a moment where I was like, neither of you have moved in too long. Don't do it, and they didn't. But it was what I loved about this scene, and this.
I should say thank you. That's what it was.
No, even before then, the fear that she had being saved when they're trampling and grabbing her. The calm, reserved authority that she has had for 12 episodes disappeared down the drain in seconds. For him to save her and her, think of all the people in the world she thought they would have saved her or what they were taking her away to do. And it was him that saved her. Like, it's incredible. I just can't wait to see him back. I'm being honest that when I say he's a favorite character, he's so unhinged. I don't know what we think he's capable of, but I feel like he's going to surpass our expectations across season 2. He will be one of the big villains across season 2, as will Dedra. I know we'll get into season 2 at the end, but his arc from even the fact we got Trevor back with him, his fate's unknown. He was like out of breath in the streets. So I don't know what happened.
Drinking,
he was like,
just drinking on the streets.
It was very strange, but I love him. Big up Trevor. He was also in the Batman that came out this year. He's having a great 2022. But the scene of Dedra was, and I think is that the last shot we saw of her in this whole episode was her sort of not walking off with him, but he's obviously been recruited, and I guess we'll talk about the ship that got away. I still learning the characters. Obviously, Bix was on there. Not R2. B2 was on there. Rasso was on there. The lady who was one of the daughters of Ferrix was on there with them.
And
everyone. I was there. I thought for 1 minute, I was like,
blow the ship up as they were leaving.
Yeah, I honestly thought, I was like, you're not going to have these jet off and get absolutely walloped. And they didn't. And I'm glad they didn't, because I think.
I had my fingers hoping, but.
Had they have done, that would have been one of the most devastating moments. That would have been too Game of Thrones-esque. And obviously, I love the bit where he recited the speech from the one. He was like, you got to climb, and he was telling them about trying to get out. I don't know why, because it wasn't an I thing, but obviously we know they're all safe. They're going to meet up. And I guess that ended their arcs. And one of my favourite moments is if we sort of head towards the Luthen stuff. We'll do Luthen before Mothma. The final scene was probably one of my favourites the entire season, because I think we all knew deep down Luthen didn't. Well, we knew he wasn't going to kill Andor, right? Because he's in Rogue One. So let's just get that out of the way. The elephant in the room. But that scene on the ship, I thought Luthen's not going to make it out of this for some reason, and I loved the fact Luthen heading to Ferrix, everything that happened in Ferrix, there's a brief moment during the speech where Luthen looks like he's about to cry with them, and that's one of the bits that hit me. He was so ingrained in Marva's speech, and it's a really finite, quick, probably not even a full second, the shot of him in that moment. When Andor comes to him and says, you kill me or you take me in, it's Luthen's smile to me. Because you go back to episode 3, and it's not just like Andor wants no part in this. He's not seeing someone saying, I want a part in this because I want to live, which is what he did in episode 3. This was, he is prepared to die now for the rebellion so he can stay in it. And I loved how impactful that moment was, because you sit there and think about the whole series, not just Andor's development, but we know what Luthen's been through. We know why he needs to kill him if he's going to be a part of it. And I just thought that it was such a powerful moment. And how does Stellan Skarsgård sell it off? With a smile, the most simple, effective way. And I thought that's how you end this series. That's how you end this. I say end this incredible character arc. Luthen lives is not what I had on my bingo card, which is great because I'm really excited to see what happens with him in season 2. But how do we all feel with that? With the final scene on the ship?
I thought it was an excellent scene. I thought Skarsgård has been a standout right throughout the series. I love the fact it finished on the last time we saw him when we first met him, and he was doing the practice smile in the ship to change his character, and then to have his final shot be of him actually putting on a real smile, the acceptance smile of like, you're a rebel with us now. Like that taking him in, he's going to do that. He's found who he believes can lead this rebellion. Maybe he's found the person he wanted, and I thought it was a really excellent. The fact Cassian was totally ready and prepared to be like, I've got people off the planet, the people I probably care about most. They're safe now. I told them I'd find them. I've given them, rebellions built on hope. I've given them some hope. That's what we're going to have, and I'm ready to die if you're going to kill me. I just thought it was so well crafted. Again, so well written. Just a perfect. That was for me was a great moment. I liked that. The only thing I didn't like about the episode was that Cassian didn't really lose anything else. I don't think Brasso should have been on that ship. I think he should have gone in the battle. Vic, to be honest, she could have gone too, as far as I was concerned. That was my only real trouble, that he didn't lose enough. He didn't even lose Ferric. There was still a battle going on, but you feel that the Empire will bring more troops and they will take over probably that area, but he didn't lose Ferric like I thought he would. But yeah, that scene itself, Cassian on the ship, bidding his farewell to this series, was excellent.
So we've got Luthen there, but there's also Vel and Cass who are kind of around as well. Like, and they do some stuff. Although Kaz does. No, Kaz has an excellent kill, which I thought, she's seemed.
Do you mean Cinta?
Cinta Kaz, yeah. She has been kind of like away doing her own thing on Ferrix, kind of keeping watch, whatnot. But I never really truly thought of how badass she was going to be and just how on it she is. I kind of thought, because Vel has been the predominant character from the Aldani group, that she's the one who's making all these tough choices and doing all these things, and which she is doing that. Cinta is also doing, a lot of things as well. And the fact that she just takes him, stabs him, shuts the door, moves on. Like, absolutely.
As well. It wasn't just the stabbing, it was like the let's go again, like right up.
Yeah, she did not care, care about him at all and about any pain he was going to be in. Just get it done, and with some aggression there, move on, and then doesn't even care afterwards when Vel asks about the blood. She's like, it's not mine. She's still packing away, whatever. And that's all we get of them, really. But I think that was, for me, I thought maybe I wanted more, but it's good. I'm kind of interested to see where they're going to end up and how they're going to because they were supposed to kill Cassian as well, and that didn't happen. So just how these relationships are going to be next season. But it was just interesting that they was kind of doing their thing outside of what was going on mostly. And then Luthen's just kind of on the sidelines as well. He's just watching, just being an observer really until the very end. Again, which is good because there's so many characters at this point that you really need to kind of pick and choose who you're going to, focus on. And if the other characters are not going to do anything, then just kind of keep them there, but don't, spend too much if they're not going to actually add anything. But I think it works because it builds up to that last scene. And, I guess Luthen's like, well, I'm going to go. He's not going to kill Cassian. He's just going to go. And then Cassian's there, which I also think, how did he get on board without the ship alert? And I don't know, but very, clever, because Luthen didn't come on board and it wasn't like red alert, someone else is here or anything. But Andrea, I love that Cassian's reached that point where, I kind of do wish he'd lost more as well. I was expecting more of a bloodbath, like Act 3 bloodbath. But, as long as the characters are used effectively next season, then I guess it's fine. But I think it would have been good to be like, you know what, there's no, like, a kind of a Luke on Tatooine, there's nothing there for me now. Not that I truly believe that Cassian would have stayed there anyway, would have wanted to stay there. But no, the final interaction between those two characters is excellent. And again, just that smile at the end says so many things. And I think we definitely, built up to this next season where we're going to see how Cassian, evolves more. He's kind of reached one stage. Now it's just going to be the rest and putting it into practice, doing more stuff focused with the rebellion, and just how that leads up to Rogue One.
Definitely. Quick comment, Lucas. Hey guys, what an ending that was. Love the finale this season. Hope you did too. Absolutely. We'll reflect on season 1 just at the end. And Martin, I forgot to bring this up. A stroke of genius casting Fiona Short as Marva Andor, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know I've not seen Killing Eve. I know she's got a very big role in that. Obviously, I keep calling it Aunt Petunia because I think there's a certain generation that will just never see anything else as much as we love Fiona Shaw. And Khan is going to have a meteorite rising command in season 2. That is the part of the plan, I hope. Phill, thoughts on the final scene?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I love the fact it was sold with a smile at the end. It's all it needed to be. And I think he's lost enough from RIX because the people that would have drawn him back are now gone. They're not dead, but there's nothing left on Ferrix for him in a different way. And I think with the violence and the fact that there are some people who died, I think it kind of leaves enough. You don't want to overdo it. I think this is the pullback part of the episode where it's a case of you've had the violence, you've had the Empire Beast, you've had horrific torture. This is the pullback. This is we still need to keep this Star Wars, and still need to keep this some sort of family friendly is the wrong words to use. But you know what I mean? I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I think it also needed to have that little bit of hope, because rebellions are built on hope, as Cassian says in Rogue One, and this is part of that. It's the whole, you need to have something. So I'm actually happy that people did survive. I think B2 should have gone, but that's more of that definitely would have been an emotional heart.
Have you all seen the theory that they all think B2 might be reprogrammed into K2? I don't want it to be true.
It's not that. No. Trust me, we have canonical material of Cassian meeting K2.
Don't worry, Tony Gilroy doesn't care about what they've said before.
Yeah,
no,
I was going to say,
the story department
does not.
No, trust me. The story department aren't going to tell Tony Gilroy how he met Andor. He's already said today. I was going to bring that for the end. He says he's got a responsibility to bring K2 in, nothing else.
He better not, and if they ruin it, I'm going to be pissed because I need my continuity.
Honestly, the episode when Phill just comes on raging, no.
It'll happen. You know it'll happen. If it happens, that's how I'll be. But that's not the point. That this is what I'm saying. That this is the pullback. This is what needs to happen. And I love the fact that in the end it was that whole sold with a smile, because Cassian, it kind of retrospectively looking back at his first meeting with Luthen, was how do you know who I am? I just want some money. To, all right then, what else have I got left? Bring me in. Let's do this properly. And the rest of it, I thought was done spectacular. So I've made my point on on Cyril very clear. That the rest of the episode, though, I love how it ended. Cinta's cold-hearted kill. The moment between Cinta and Vel, where you could see Vel was not comfortable with killing Andor, but the words didn't need to be said. It was off screen. It just, you kind of knew something had changed there. And
Sorry,
then,
I'm in shock. One of my friends who just texted me, he met Stellan Skarsgård today. That's interesting. Sorry, I'm sorry for carrying on. I'm getting the details. Well, I know where this person was today.
Okay, weird.
It's in a shop. It's in Primark. Weird.
Well, we know season 2's filming and what studio it's been at.
yeah, this is true. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. So I actually really enjoyed. I love the fact though that Andor's probably disabled the security droid as well, because of course Luthen comes in and goes, right, get this bird off the ground. Let's get out of here. And he's like, hang on a second, why are you not doing what I'm telling you to do? And then there he is, and it's just, yeah, it was really well done. Also, you have I wonder if the blaster that Andor has looks very similar to the one that Rey has in Force Awakens. Kind of looks very similar. I wonder if that's kind of a similar thing. I'm not sure if it is, but it's just like I clocked. But yeah, very happy with how it ended. I thought, yeah, I disagree slightly in terms of your point of views on who needs to die more than having nothing left on Ferrix. But if this is as much as a quarrel as we have with the entire season as a whole, then I think that reflects much better on how the entire season has been, rather than just small pernickety points. If we can sit here and go, this has been 12 episodes and we're already annoyed that we have to wait until next year, and I'm quite frankly annoyed that it's only been one season more to go, that I want more, and I know I shouldn't, and it's that level of this is how good it's been.
Sorry, I'm traumatized. I'm still reading the story.
Well, I mean, I just want to say quickly, because I forgot, kind of like when Cassian is saying to Luthen about, either kill me or or take me, whatever. I feel like that's such a good line from him, because I feel like from this point onwards he's prepared to die whenever, and that he knows, he's been through so much crap already. He's kind of like, right, well, I'm ready for anything. And I think that kind of makes, kind of the reaction to, what's going to happen in Rogue One and his eventual end, it makes it seem easier for me as a viewer to kind of look and go, all right, okay, that he is very calm at this. And I guess sometimes you in maybe those situations, you would have this own sense of, okay, well, this is it. But, some people would go crazy over that. Absolutely crazy. So I love that, it's just kind of, he's here for whatever ride he's going to get. And when it ends, and he's totally going to be cool with that. And for me, that's quite comforting, actually.
And also, kill me or take me in is also going to be my new Tinder profile bio.
Updating it right now.
Sorry, I'm still traumatized. I'm getting the story about
George, come on.
I know.
Being very unprofessional. I don't know.
It can wait.
He was in costume, and my friend doesn't watch Andor, so doesn't know how big a deal this was.
Costume as a Jedi.
Imagine you meet Stellan Skarsgård in costume on the first week of filming Andor Season 2, on the day Andor finished airing, and you've not seen it, and you speak with him because you bumped into him in a corridor. The awkward shimmy. Oh, yeah, it was that. I'd have just fainted. He'd have just walked straight past me. Sorry, I'm
he would have
really
walked straight past you anyway.
It's so off topic. It's on topic. But anyway.
So anyway, I'm going to take back over hosting duties and.
Let's not talk about the last scene. Let's talk. I know Dave. Sorry, Phil. You spoke about Mon Mothma earlier. I'll just give my 2-piece. I loved the weird wedding to be ceremony. Wow. It's a phrase, isn't it? It's not my
2 cents.
2 cents.
That's the one.
Yeah, not a 2-piece like a bikini.
Like a 2-piece suit. No, I don't know. It's an American analogy. How do we all feel with Mon Mothma? How do
Someone
we
needs to
feel with the
reset
Mon Mothma
George.
stuff? Because I'm fuming at the same time as being jealous.
Phone
God.
down. Deal with it after.
Hey, you'd have never got a link if I hadn't had the phone out.
I had to pop into the comments to go, oi! Like,
Didn't mean I couldn't have sent it though. I had to forward the one I sent to Sam.
True.
But
Anyway, Andor, Mon Mothma.
yes, how do we feel with the story arc for season 1? If I'm being honest, because I've loved the story arc, and I love that they haven't took her and been like, "Here's Mon Mothma, here's the politician, here's her becoming the rebel leader right now. End of season 1, let's go." Still, in this grand scheme of things, nothing has changed, and her season 1 story arc has very much been a personal Mon Mothma's family life type thing in a very weird way. I absolutely love it. Before anyone thinks I'm dissing it, I'm not. But it's not the story arc I thought it would be in a really good way. That it's not something I imagine them doing. And I think when season 2 comes, and I'm sure they've got their plan for what they're going to do to the family members and her, I think we're going to have probably one of the toughest moments in Star Wars. Well, let's say TV history. Let's say on-screen history. They're gonna do something horrific in season 2. I just sense it. And we're going to see this character go into despair after and go off to become the rebel leader. We know she ends up being. Is that harsh of me or weird of me to say? I'm kind of curious.
No, I think Mon Mothma has had probably one of the saddest arcs over the series. From her starting, we meet her as like this high up senator. Although yes, people don't want to listen to her, and she's sort of like she's plotting the rebellion in the background. To when we leave her in the final episode, where they're having to agree to her daughter being married off just so she can cover some debt, so she can continue on with this. You see her, she's so low, and we leave her. I mean, she looks amazing, but she's so low in what's going on. I find it a really sad arc. I really hope we get her build back up of how she gets to be the Mon Mothma we see in not just Rogue One, but into then Jedi. I'd like to see that rise start again, because she's had this just a straight slump for most of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I have to comment on that final outfit by her. I'm so sorry, because those Chandrillan colors and just the way it looks like it's kind of like a blazer thing, and it's cinched at the waist, and just the shoulder pads, and it's like such a sense of power, but she seems so powerless in it, and it's just so sad, because her and her family are just so disconnected. It's ridiculous. And it has been sad. I didn't really think about that, her entire arc being sad until just now, but it really has been a sense of she was kind of up here, and now she's like way down here. I think she really needs to be motivated again, and she's kind of in a slump now. Her connection is Vel and Luthen, and that's it. They're off doing their own things anyway, and so she's been so at the side, but it's never felt like, oh, why is she a part of this story? I think some people may have had that little bit of disconnect, that because she is so contained, whereas all these other characters, and obviously especially Cassian, is so all over the place, that it could be a bit weird. But I mean, I love it, because it's such a different side to things that I would never thought that we would have seen, and to kind of see this struggle, but which is so internalized, and I think Genevieve's just done such an amazing job at showing so much and showing very little as well. And there's so many levels to the character, and yeah, I do see. I mean, we thought maybe bad things could happen at the very end of this season for her and her family, but because that hasn't happened, it's definitely going to happen next season. I think her daughter being married off at this age, how her marriage is just so dissolved at this point. Like, I don't feel any love, between the two at all. If there was any at the beginning of the season, then that's definitely gone. And yeah, either she's just going to lose that. She's going to lose them in one way or another, more so than she already has done. But such a great idea to have her in this series and to kind of offset her storyline with the rest. Very interested to just see how that goes, and and that transition, because how Cassian's kind of gone to kind of like the next step, she's not there yet, and at some point she's going to need that.
Yeah, and just to continue on from that, Genevieve O'Reilly has taken Many Bothans Died to bring us this information to a fully fledged character that has so much depth through Rebels, Clone Wars, Episode 3 deleted scene, through Andor, and Rogue One. You have a character that's completely and utterly fleshed out, and you now feel for her and her family and what's happening, and you feel for her covering her tracks into making sacrifices, and you see the character that we are told about by the time we get to Return of the Jedi. All we've ever had before that was, as I said, Many Bothans died to bring us this information. That's it. And now you have a character that is not only fleshed out, but one that is properly integral to the story of Star Wars. And it's been played. Genevieve O'Reilly has made that character not only her own, but has made that character definitively her own. I can't remember the name of the actress who plays in Return of the Jedi, but she is no longer Mon Mothma in my eyes at all. She's just the actress who picks up the role rather than being the one that originated. It's completely flipped on its head. And her acting throughout has been phenomenal. And to bounce off what you're saying there, Sam, about the outfits, it's not only this episode. You go back to when Phill shows up as well, and she sat there looking regal. She's the whole Chandrilan ceremony is going on about the arranged marriages and all the rest of it, and she's dying on the inside. And of course, Perrin, her husband, is loving all this because, well, she's Daddy's little girl in comparison to the cold relationship she has with her mother, which is a whole, you're right, you're off the hook. It is so disconnected. And Mon Mothma, I think, tries to hide her feelings, but also can't. And it's very obvious and very well done. And it's one of my favorite parts of the entire show because it gives us fresh, well, just new blood and life to a character that we've only had a couple of lines from before.
No, very, very well said. And it is going to be amazing to see what they do with her moving forward. And Gary Witt has sent a tweet. If anyone knows Gary Witt, he like co-wrote Rogue One. I never know if it was the final version or the one that was the Gareth Edwards full cut. But he said him and Chris White's had an idea for a TV show. This is many years ago, not current. About a Mossad-style rebel team hunting down Imperial war criminals who fled and disappeared after the fall of the Empire. Would have been an amazing book into Rogue One. We never did anything with it further. Now, since shows like Andor, I'm so much more invested into the political side of Star Wars. Like, I enjoy politics anyway. I say enjoy it. You know, we hear about it so much in real life. But now we've had a show like Andor, I'm just sort of there like, there's a vast potential for Star Wars to delve into whatever they believe they can delve into now. That there is a darker story to tell. And when I say dark, I don't mean, it's gritty. It's got a dark color palette. I'm talking thematics, fascism.
I am buying you and Dave Bloodlines for Christmas. For cry out loud.
I'm not going to read it. Don't worry. I'm not going to read it. Don't worry. Tony Gilroy's going to ignore it. It's fine. Listen, I need to see it. They shot The Barbarian. Is it The Barbarian? The Barbican in London? Don't know, wherever the theatre is. They're shooting these random location things. It's bloody amazing. But
the Cloud Technology Centre of all places.
Yes, exactly. It's just, there's so many. But we've spoken a lot about this. We spoke a lot about the season. We've got two more things. I know we've been going almost an hour and a half. Let's talk that credit scene. There's not much to say, but I'm just going to get in. Not spoiler alert for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but the credit scene in that film is the most, to me, important scene in the film that should have been the final scene of the film. That is not the purpose of a credit scene, and it was ridiculous. Credit scene should be there as non-essential viewing for any viewer. The purpose of them is almost to make an Easter egg, to make comments, not even set something up. The credit scene has been tormented thanks to Marvel and Disney. And when I heard the story yesterday, the press got a copy of this early. People did the polite thing and said, hey guys, there is a credit scene for the show. I was worried, and I was like, Andor strikes me as the least obvious Star Wars show to have a credit scene. However, Andor is getting a season 2, so I wouldn't defiantly rule it out. I was not expecting the Death Star, and I was fucking delighted. Because I knew there was a credit scene. I was there like, what is it? Like, is it going to be them at Coruscant? Is it going to be... I was expecting a big story thing, but the fact it was this sort of reminder, like, this is what these guys were building all day, every day. Day shift, night shift, 7 floors, multiple prisons, however many planets, however many prisons are on that planet. And we got to see one of them in the most microscopic form being used as kind of like a... Do you guys all remember Geomag?
Yes. Yeah.
You'd have the little magnet ball and you'd stick all the magnets on it.
Mm.
It's like the crux of the Geomag stuff, right? And it just showed not how minor, but when you get into the scale of how big this Death Star is, it's this beautiful reminder of what this series not is, but Cassian dies in Rogue One. They're building the Death Star. That's why they're killing everyone on those planets. That's why they're never leaving those prisons. They're building parts for the Death Star. And just to get that scene, I think it's one of my... I don't want to say one of my favorite scenes of the series. That's really disrespectful. This is one of the only times I would say Tony Gilroy has made I don't want to say made the efforts to do a reference, but this was, as I said, a reminder. It was... I think it was... I'm trying to think of the right words to describe the scene. There was something chilling about it, and I can't quite put my finger. Is it because Andor's helping build the weapon that's going to kill him? Maybe, but how do we all feel? I know it's a very minor scene. It's only 40 seconds. There's not much to say, but I was like jaw dropped. OCD kicks in. A symmetrical shot, a partially built Death Star shot. We know they were struggling with the weapon for years. Just look at that beautiful image. I wonder what planet that is. That's my big question.
I just thought it was a perfect little topper for if they're going to have an end credit scene. Obviously, it probably belonged at the very end of the prison arc to see what they were actually building. But I like that they've just kept that aside. I think to reveal the Death Star at that point would have been like, ta-da, Death Star. You kind of sort of doing. I think it was just a nice cherry in the top. Like, remember this is what's going on. It's here. I like that it was the rings of the actual super weapon itself.
The real rings
so they're
of
not
power.
they're not just building bits of the Death Star. They're building the weapon that's going to go into there. That's what's actually getting put together, and that's what makes it even a big like, wow, that is literally what's going to kill him. It's I really liked it. Made me clap.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to put, Death Star and non-essential viewing together, but this is it. This is it. I mean, you could easily not have seen this, gone on to season 2, and you would be fine, I guess. But because there's been sometimes storylines and art and just beats drop, kind of like Cassian's sister, for example, like. I think it was kind of set up as maybe that would be a thing, but it's not. Oh, what are we building these for? That gets, it's not really that important. But it's great because people did say it. People were thinking it. I definitely thought, it could be for that, but I mean that's too obvious. And then I forgot about it, and then it's like, oh right, okay, it is it, and it's kind of like just hilariously ironic. It is so funny. It's like, great, you're literally building the exact bit that's going to kill you. That's so funny. Even though it's awful, it's terrible. And just the whole thing to kind of see the Death Star, and we've seen it so many times, but I mean to see it just from this different angle was gorgeous. But yeah, all I can think of is that line from The World Is Not Enough, where it's like, he set off the blast that killed him. And that's just all I can think of when I saw that. But yeah, very nice touch. And it was, I do like to get an answer for most things. So it was good to see what those parts were actually used for.
It was very Manhattan Project in terms of different people building different parts in different places, not knowing what they were building it for. And so it all came together. They were, this is what you're using this for. Yeah, we don't like this. But this is, as you said, it's very much building the gun that kills him. He's building his own death, which is the harrowing and brilliant and hilarious all at the same time. It is like all those reactions in one. And yeah, okay, so I haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet, so I'm interested in terms of that particular point in terms of the post-credits scene. But for me, this was, as you say, so it's non-essential viewing, but it's also essential at the same time. It's pretty damn good. On top of that, I mean, it's very much, it ties the whole series together without doing too much. I was fearful it might be Hera or something like that, something kind of like, here's something that is more important than the entire episode we've just had. And it wasn't. It was a nice tie-up and a nice reminder that this is still Star Wars, and here is the Death Star, and here is your timeline, and here is it all without doing too much. I thought it was a perfect little way to end it all.
No, absolutely. And kind of ending the credit scene, we're not just going to round out on this episode, but we're going to give our final thoughts on season 1 of Andor. Something so strange. A quick one by Zambon. It's Scarif. Is it? If they confirm it, great.
Makes sense.
It looks like the start. It looks like the it's just. I mean, it looks like a great. It's a great shot. And the beauty is we don't need answers to that. Final thoughts on Andor season 1. For me, we are potentially halfway through the greatest piece of Star Wars media ever done. That's the caliber. I know I came into the show with not high expectations, but I came to the show thinking this has the potential to be very good. This is the show people wrote off when it was announced. This is the show that I think could steal it all. And it has so far, beyond my wildest belief. I thought it will be a fun adventure, rebellion series with a bit of tension and stakes. We have been treated to some of the best writing, arguably the best writing in Star Wars history across the last 10 weeks. And I cannot wait to see what happens next. Do have a 2-year wait, which is the biggest shame. Tony Gilroy has now confirmed filming this week, wraps in August next year, starts in 2024, same time he said. So we can't get our hopes up about early releases, but I'm patient for the wait. The longer the wait, the better it'll be. But that's my final thoughts for now.
I was right there with you. When this series was announced, when it came out, I was like, all right, then let's dive into an Andor series. And you're right, for me, it is literally some of the best Star Wars I've ever seen in my lovely long life. It's been wonderful. I've loved every episode. Even though I had criticisms through this one, maybe I didn't quite stick the end the way I'd wanted it, but that's just a personal thing. The series as a whole has been exceptional, and I can't wait to now go back and do a full revisit of all the episodes and watch it through again. So I'm really looking forward to do that, because I need to take it in, just sit and watch it all now as a whole thing. It's been excellent. I can't wait to return back to that world with Cassian again, which is something I never thought I'd say at the start of the series.
Yeah, I mean, this has been, I think it's safe to say exceeded expectations. I mean, I would probably give, as an initial kind of thought on the whole season, that I would give the season definitely a 9 out of 10. I mean, there's very little that I can say was wrong. I don't think everything was done perfectly, but I think everyone who's worked on this has done such a solid job that there's nothing to me that's been bad or has been wrong. And I think the love and care in this series, there's a lot of pressure with anything Star Wars related to get it done right. But this is a different Star Wars. This is not the Star Wars that we know. So I feel like they've managed to kind of allow themselves to think of new things and just try out being different without, doing a complete 180. It still feels like we're in that same galaxy, that whilst they're doing all this stuff, that Obi-Wan's on Tatooine watching over Luke, and all this, just everything's going on. So I mean, I'm loving how it's been. I'm really excited for what's to come. And I've got to give it up just for the acting and the characters, because I mean, it's the fact that I really want to know about where these characters are heading, that I love these characters, that the acting has been tremendous for everyone. I feel like it is, just beating everyone over the head with this, because it has just been so exceptional. But I don't think anyone expected this series to do as well as it has been. And especially with The Mandalorian being how it was and the hype for Obi-Wan. But no, I think it is a shame that we were only going to get a second season, but we still are getting that. And so I just hope they stick the landing, which I'm pretty certain that they will. But you never know. You never know.
I'm going to keep it nice and short and sweet. Coloured me intrigued when it was announced. I was looking forward to it. I've loved it ever since. And I know a lot of people who have been completely turned on their opinions because of the acting and the story. So, yeah.
No, absolutely, guys. And that is going to do it for our Andor coverage. Once again, thank you to everybody at home who's been commenting, not just today, but throughout the entire 10-week run of the
Dave,
series.
just go.
Yeah, it has been lovely doing so. And we cannot wait to talk more Star Wars with you. The next Star Wars thing will be the Mandalorian coverage on our channel. That's February. We believe that's going to, well, we know it's starting in February. We don't know when. Weekly discussions will return for then. In the meantime, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe. To you three that's been joining me throughout this, Tate, who stepped into cover, thank you so much as well. And if you want to get us on social medias where we announce stuff, because right now we've got nothing in our schedule. Spielberg series finished yesterday, Andor finishes today. Announcements on social media. Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and episode.com/cinema_savvy. Link to Redbubble where you can pick up so much to support the channel. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining along, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
So,